Okay, so today we are in DaVinci Resolve and I'm gonna teach Alessandro how to get the most requests look for commercials. This is a clean white look, you're seeing it right now here on the screens. This, I would say, 90% of the time when you're working with the clients and you're working on a commercial, they're gonna request something like this. Quite simple. In theory, you just have pure whites and pure blacks, but you also want anything that's the product to pop out of the image, and that's what we're gonna look at today. Without further ado, let's jump into DaVinci and see how it's done. So we're in DaVinci. I've taken a couple of clips that I already sent to Alessandro. These are from a previous work that I've done for hydrophonic farming, I think it's called. I'm on the 17 studio version, but since Alessandro is on the 16 free version, I'm not going to use any of the new features of the 17 nor the features of the studio version. I'm going to tell you what.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a couple of things you can do if you want to improve on what we're going to do today with the 17 studio version, but it's extracurricular there. There's no need to go that far. Anyway, I'm Riccardo, aka the Metadata. He's Alessandro, and this is Mamma Mia! Okay, so super quick. First thing first, whenever you jump into DaVinci, you want to create your node tree. So for today, well, for me at least, the first node is always for noise reduction. This time it will be empty for basically noise reduction is not available in this free version, but let's call it anyway NR, and it will stay there for reminding us how important it is to actually spend money. Kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, first node, noise reduction. Second node will be our primaries. Okay. Third node will be already, I think, our whites. Okay, so this will be the node in which we actually clean the whites. For with that, we want to add, I would say, for this particular look, a couple of parallels. Okay, depending on the look, of course, you want to have basically as many parallels as the actual colors of the product. So, for example, if you're working on a car commercial, the car is red, you actually need one, maybe plus one for the skin tone. If you have strong highlights, I would highly recommend also to have a parallel for that, for you can control the highlights basically in a different parallel. In this case, the highlights are fine, so we really don't need it. In this case, we'll have one parallel for the skin, and one parallel possibly for our greens, which is the actual product, the vegetables that they are being displayed is the product. So we're gonna have, our green, okay, and that's how we're gonna name these nodes. As always, an adjustment node after this. This is actually extracurricular. Most of the time, I think I wouldn't use this for this commercial look, but it's always good to have it, just in case. New node, this will be our sharpen. Okay, important, super important in commercials, you want to have your image crispy, okay, super crisp and with all the details possible, so sharpening is super important here. I'm gonna show you a couple of tips actually to have a very crisp image without making it over sharpened, which doesn't look correct and also looks a bit too digital sometimes. And then I would say next node would be our vignette. Okay, always good to have a vignette node to pop our product, and with the vignette, option O on the keyboard to actually get an outside to make the subject a bit more poppy. And extracurricular last node would be a grain node. Again, this is something that the client might want, might not. Most of the time in commercials, you don't want grain, you want the image crisp and clear, but sometimes, they want to go for a more cinematic look, so grain might be fine. This is, yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, teacher. The 10. How have you made it? I lost.
I said it. You're not listening. No, just kidding.
No, sorry.
Alt O on the keyboard.
Alto.
Exactly.
Okay.
Not basso, alto. Okay, remember.
Alto.
Exactly.
I'm not alto.
Yeah, I know that's why you're struggling, possibly. I struggle too, being a basso. Okay, once you have this, before we jump into the actual grading, I want to show you a quick tip that might save you a lot of time next time you grade a commercial, which is if you open up your gallery, you can have your power grade album, and if you save this still in the power grade album, then this notary will be available for you anytime that you actually go back in a new project. For the power grade is available for any project basically throughout your entire program. Before you do that, I would recommend, for example, if you're using sharpening or if you're using a specific type of grain, to put them in there so that next time you have them. For example, in this case, one thing that we will do possibly is to actually add a new node after this one, which I forgot, which will be our CST node, okay, color space transform node. For this is a commercial, most of the time in commercials you want to just go as fast as you can, and so you don't want to mess too much with the primaries, okay? Primaries is more of a balance node, but the actual heavy load in terms of color and contrast, you want this to be as automated and as quick as possible, and that's why we're going to use the color space transform tool from DaVinci. You can also use a conversion LUT. DaVinci has a lot of conversion LUTs available. For Blackmagic footage, I find that CST works a bit better. For example, on Canon or Sony, I would say LUTs work best, but that's also your choice. Play with this and see what works best for you. So first thing I would do with this is to actually add the color space transform so we can see how it does in the overall image. So OpenFX, color space transform, drop this into the node, which we cannot see right now. So let's move it.
Damn it!
Color space transform, yes. And with this, let's set it up. Alessandro has already seen my previous video. If you haven't, check it out. Link in the description below and a little tab up here. But let's set it. I won't go in depth on how to set it this time. Just for this is Blackmagic Raw. So this is DaVinci Blackmagic Design White Gamma Gen 4.
And what if you don't have it?
You don't have what?
DaVinci.
You have it.
Blackmagic.
Blackmagic White Gamma Gen 4. You have it.
White Gamma. Okay. Yeah.
You are not listening again. Bad teacher.
Sorry, teacher.
Bad student. Bad student. And I'm punching the desk so the camera is vibrating. Thanks. And as for input gamma, Blackmagic Design Pocket 6K Gen 4. Rec 709 for the output. For this is gonna go for broadcast or internet. So Rec 709 is kosher there. Tone mapping, as always, luminance mapping, gamma mapping, saturation compression. That's all good. Image already looks quite nice. There's a couple of things that we can tweak, but before we do that, I would say let's apply the sharpening. And to do so, let's go into the sharpen menu here. The way the sharpening works in DaVinci is actually you tell DaVinci to de-blur the image. So you are in the blur menu and you just drop down the blur radius. Usually, 0.47 is more than fine. Okay, if we go before and after, yeah, there's definitely a big difference here. The other thing, maybe, we can move it, park it in a frame that's in focus, something like this. Before and after, sharpening is doing a great work. One thing that we could do here, actually, since this, again, is a commercial, I want to keep a bit more detail, is to actually use this tool here, which is called Midtone Detail, and raise it ever so slightly. Basically, what this does is it increases the detail just in the midtones, okay? Not in the highlights, nor in the shadows, just in the midtones. And basically makes the image a bit more crisp, okay? So if we punch in quite a lot, and we do before and after, you can see particularly in his skin, okay? This is a farmer, so it's nice to see, his hands. These are working hands. This is not a wedding in which you want the bride and the groom to be perfect, have the skin super polished. This is a farmer. It's nice to see all the detail, the texture in his skin.
Sorry, teacher.
Yes.
I don't see the mid detail.
Because you have in the 16 you have two menus down here. you should have a 1 and 2 button. If you press on 2, you go to the second menu. By the way, make sure that you are on the primary wheels, not on the log wheels. Okay, mid-tone detail is just in the primaries, not in the logs. So first menu here, okay, and then second menu down there.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And now that we have both the CST and the sharpening, okay, we could add grain. I won't for this commercial, for example, it wasn't needed, but if I would, yeah, that would be there. Now we can actually, you know, open the gallery, open up Power Grade, right click, and grab a still for there. We can even label it. Okay, so right click, we can choose to change the label and call this the clean white look. Okay, and we have it. It's there for us anytime we need it. Let's close this actually. And before we do anything in here, we also want to grab our clips, select both of the other 2 clips, okay? And then right click with the wheel on our mouse on the clip that's already graded. Basically like this, we are applying the same node tree to the other 2, okay? We could do the same thing with the gallery, okay? We just select them, right click on the clip and apply grade. That's the same, but you know, just a quicker way to do it. Do you have a mouse or you're just working with a touchpad? I don't remember.
Both.
Okay, so with them, basically to apply the grade on different clips, you just select the clips that are not graded. Okay, you go on the clip that is graded and you right click with the center wheel of the mouse on the clip that's graded. So, and this copy pastes the node tree and the grade on the others.
I have a small problem because I don't see
the clips,
the big clips.
Okay.
By the way, anyway,
top
I have to
clip.
do
top right.
Yeah.
Clips, and they open it up. They open up in here.
Yeah, no, I saw them, but not like that.
How do you see them?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. Now I
Okay.
Now I see them.
Perfect. So now that we have basically,
and sorry, because I was struggling. How can I copy and paste?
Yeah, no worries. So you select the clips, like so. You just you know you click Shift on the keyboard. You select everything. Then you place your mouse over the clip which is already graded, and you right click with the center wheel of the mouse. Sorry, you click with the center wheel of the mouse.
And where is copy?
No, it's not copy. You click the scroll wheel. The scroll wheel is clickable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just click on this here with the scroll wheel, and it copies it.
Whoa. Okay. Wow.
DaVinci is all but to make everything fast. DaVinci wants to make everything fast, everything available with a click. And that's why you don't have to right click and do anything. You just have shortcuts everywhere. And also you can have a panel, which is just $3,000. 3,050. And with the panel, you can just be like a piano player, you know, that's super fast, super interesting, and super expensive.
Because you're an artist.
Okay, but going back to our clip, finding a nice frame to park our playhead so that it's all sharpened. Yeah. Now we can start doing our grade, okay? So first thing first, let's go in our primary node. Let's grab our waveform, or at least our scopes. In this case, what I would do is have a general look at the image. Looks quite nice, looks quite balanced, but I want to make sure, so let me take out also the vector scope. Okay, let's take out the vector scope. And yeah, in the vector scope right away, we can see that the image is not balanced. Okay, if I do this and I go in the vector scope, you can see the image is quite on the hot side, okay? So definitely what we want to do is to, before we do anything, to balance this out. And the way to do so is, remember, in DaVinci, 90% of the work is done with the primary wheels, and that's what we're going to use. I'm going to use my mouse for this time. Normally I would use my console. But with a mouse, what we can do is, we see that the image is unbalanced. So first thing first, I would say, you know, just with the Tempentines, try to balance this out. So let's push this down ever so slightly. Something like that. Looks nice. Let's punch in a bit. So let's go with a per 2 zoom. Okay, now you see that this is way more centered. Okay, if we go before and after. Okay, and you can already see in the image how we had this sort of magenta going on ever so slightly here, and also in the highlights, which has been taken out. The whites are already looking more clean, but there's a lot that we need to do yet, okay, to make this pristine and to get that clean white look. For our primaries, I would say let's check the vectors, the waveform. We could, you know, push the black points a bit lower, for we still have some dynamic range that we can use. This is commercial, we want the image to be quite poppy, so let's do it. So let's go with a lift and let's drag this down, okay, until we see that this touches the bottom line. In terms of contrast, I think this works. We can try and push it and see how it looks. This is definitely too much, but, you know, just a touch of contrast like this. And maybe, you know, working with a pivot to see what looks best. Yeah, something like this looks nice. Basically what I'm doing here is, with the contrast, I'm raising the contrast to add some contrast, but then with the pivot, I'm choosing where to put basically the center of the S-curve that I'm creating with the contrast. And lowering this point basically makes the curve act more on the upper side, and so we get a more open image, a more bright image, and that's what we want. So let's go Control Z to see before and after. There's more changes, but it's definitely looking better. Okay, we see the blacks are more proper. We see that we have more contrast and more detail. That's fine. That's what we can use. And we can start from where we can start. This is a good start, I would say. I'm seeing, for example, that these whites are unbalanced. So with the wheels, let's try to balance them, okay? We want to balance this out as much as possible before we start. So this one, to check what the whites are, we can go with a qualifier and see here, for example, this is a white line, okay? This is what we want to balance, okay? This line here. And we can see here that the green is prominent, so we have a slight green tint in the highlights. So let's take care of that, okay? Let's take care of that, and so we have green in the highlights, so we want to add magenta to counter it. Too much, a bit too much. But something like this, you see. Now this is looking more proper, this is looking more neutral. And if we go before and after now, yeah, this is more clean, this is cleaner. The blacks here are quite neutral, so I wouldn't say I want to touch them. So this is a properly balanced image, okay? We have a good black point, we have a good white point. The whites are neutral, the blacks are neutral. But you can see that, for example, this gray is not neutral at all. Okay, we definitely have some magenta going on here. The whites are looking a bit more gunky. So how do we clean this up? How do we make this a clean white look? That's what we have to do in the white node here, so node 3. If we jump in node 3, the secret tool to get this look in a second is the color boost tool. The color boost, if you're coming from Lightroom, for example, is the equivalent to vivid, okay? You can make the color more vivid or less vivid. That's doing more or less the same thing. So it's basically taking saturation or adding saturation to the less saturated parts of the image. In this case, since we want to neutralize the less saturated parts, we want to drag this down. Don't overdo it. If I were to overdo it, you see this becomes black and white completely. But even if I overdo it to, for example, -30, we definitely get something that looks a bit wrong, okay? Doesn't look that right. But, you know, if we just add a touch, like a -10, it's basically, I'm looking at the waveform now. I'm pushing it until I see that basically my gray is becoming pure gray, okay? I'm looking at this portion of the waveform, and with this deactivated, you see, we have an imbalance here in the colors. With this activated, you can see the blacks here, we had a blue top, and it's getting cleaned up. This year we had a magenta, purple prominence that is getting cleaned up. And in the highlights, they were balanced, but not that much. Now they are way more balanced, okay? And you can see even in the image, it's looking more pristine, more clean. We are losing all those tints here and there. Of course, now though, we lack saturation in the products, okay, that we want. For example, the skin tone is a bit too desaturated. Even in the greens, we might want a bit more pop. And that's why we have these two nodes here, okay? First node with the skin. The way you attack this is completely depending on you. You could do it a bit more different ways. If your footage, for example, is not a 10-bit footage like this one, it's just an 8-bit footage, chances are the qualifiers won't work that well. In that case, I would advise you to use your curves, your hue curves. In this case, we can work with qualifiers, but I'll show you two different ways, one for the skin tones and one for the greens, so you can see both methods. So let's...
Come on, man, we are not editing for aliens. There are no greens, man.
Ma saranno cazzi miei!
Hai cagato. We have more problems than everyone else, always. Like battery, memory card.
That's why we have fun.
Whatever.
I would say that's why we have fun. And now it's not fucking focusing on my face. Thank you, camera. Yeah, so as I was saying, for the skins, we're going to use actual qualifiers. So let's go into our qualifiers and let's start qualifying our skin. Shift S, Shift H to see our qualification. It's not qualifying a fucking thing, for I selected the wrong tool. So select the drop picker and qualify your skin. Okay, let's try to qualify everything and yeah, this looks quite nice. We definitely have to take care of these black and white spots. So let's try and do that. Let's lower the low end until this point, I would say. Let's lower the high end. Nope, let's lower the high end. Not that much, something like that. And let's see with center if we can get a better qualification. Okay, below, yeah, with this we're definitely getting something bad. Okay, something like this looks nice, I would say. Okay, we can add some softness actually. Yeah, something like this looks nice. We can denoise it, definitely, to clean it up even more. Something like this looks definitely nice. And so we have our qualification. Now we can go in here and just, add some saturation back, but we don't want to actually add only saturation. If we were to just add saturation, you see, it doesn't look that right, and we're not controlling the actual hue. In this case, we have the possibility to do so, so let's do it. Let's take our vector scope. So our skin, the actual color is looking fine, I would say it's looking proper. It's maybe a bit too red, but we can push a bit more saturation here. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, I'm just working with my midtones now. Okay, so just with my gamma, I'm just pushing some color with the gamma. I don't want to do it with the gain now, basically because I want to keep these highlights neutral. That's the whole point about this. So yeah, let's try and do so. Okay, even something like this, I think looks fine. Let's do before and after. Yeah, before and after, you see, we're getting more light.
How you do the before and after?
Control D on the keyboard, sorry. Control D on the keyboard. Oh, Command D for you. You're on a Mac. I'm on the PC, he's on the Mac. So every time for me it's a struggle to say it the correct shortcut. But yeah, Control D, Command D, how you want to call it, before and after.
It's perfect.
You see, just doing it with the gamma, so with the midtones, is getting life back to it, but it's not going to touch too much the highlights, okay? They are being kept pristine here. That's what we want. Nice.
And sorry, man.
Yeah.
I noticed different things. Mm-hmm. For example, when you click the skin toolbar, whatever it is, how it's called, I don't know.
This here.
I see the gray part. No. On how they are called, the levels. The effect. Okay. Great. Solve it.
Okay.
The effect, yeah.
You weren't seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Yes. So Shift H to activate and deactivate the highlight mode. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me do one thing though. So one thing I'm seeing here, okay, you have to keep an eye on this, is we were qualifying a portion of this, and you see this is getting a bit orangey, and that doesn't look right, okay? We don't want this to look orangey.
Yeah.
So one thing we could do to counter that, and also another thing that I'm noticing actually, okay, looks right. But yeah, to counter this, to make sure that we don't get it, let's go in the highlight. Let's move the hand and see how this goes. You see, we have that portion there that is getting qualified. We don't want it. Let's control it. Let's take a mask. Let's take a circular mask. Create a circular mask around our hand. Okay. Something like this. And of course, let's soften it. We want this to be quite softened. Okay. Always soften your masks. Otherwise, they will look gunky. And that's not what we want. And then let's go to track it. So this hand, we don't really need 3D or rotation. I would say, yeah, let's leave zoom. Basically, this option here, the way you select them, is you have to think how the subject that you're tracking or the subject inside the mask that you're tracking is moving. And if it's not doing crazy 3D stuff, it's not doing crazy rotations, you can uncheck them and DaVinci will have a much better time tracking them. So let's start the tracking forward. Perfect tracking. And let's track also the first frames. Okay.
No, wait.
Sure.
How did you track it? Because I tried to do the same.
Basically, click. Yeah.
I click I have pan tilt zoom enabled, and I click the track forward. Yeah, but it doesn't track anything.
Have you created a mask?
Yeah.
And are you selecting the mask? So it might be your processor that's taking in a bit more time, you know. If your PC is struggling, or for example you're on a laptop, and
now yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
you see, it was just a bit slow. No worries.
Yeah.
And make sure, of course, that you have tracked everything. So if you started tracking, for example, here, then go back to that point and track backwards. So you have tracked the entire image. You can always check, you know, you can go back and forth and see, but the tracking is working nicely here. I would say, yeah, it's definitely working nicely. Okay, and now since we have this mask, you can also see that this part here, yeah, it's getting a little bit tinted. Okay, but way less than before. Okay, this now is softened and it's fine. Okay, but if you go,
how can I disable the mask?
You basically click. You can do it in a couple of ways. You either go here and click off, or you just click away from the mask or from the mask menu.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
With this done, now we can take care of the greens. Okay. In this case, the reason why I'm taking care of the green is more that the client wanted a specific tint of green. Didn't want it to look, you know, too yellowish. This time is a fresh vegetable, so you want it to be of a lively green. If we look at the scope here, it's quite yellow right now, and we don't want it. So this is more intended in terms of tint more than actual saturation. The saturation here is fine. I would say it's definitely saturated. It's more than fine. So what we want to do in this case is go into our curves, select from the drop-down menu hue versus hue. Okay, and the way these curves or any of the hue versus curve work is the first thing you have is the input value. So in this case, this curve selects via hue, and the second term is what is gonna be touched. So hue versus hue, you select a hue and you change it. Hue versus sat, you select a hue and you change the saturation value of that specific hue. Hue versus lume, you select a specific hue and you change the luminosity value of that hue. Same that you have in Lightroom, basically. Okay, in this case, we want to take care of these greens, which are actually more yellow this time. One thing nice that you can do is actually go in with the drop picker, click on it, and DaVinci will tell you where this is. Okay, this is this spikes.
Whoa.
Okay, one thing that we want to do is actually widen this this range. Okay, this is a bit of a tight range, so we can select one anchor point and modify the input hue and make it a bit broader, something like this. Same thing for the other. One thing we want to do, we know that this spike is the skin tone, so we want to make sure that this anchor doesn't go into the hue of the skin. Okay, we want to make sure that we don't touch the skin. Okay, so something like this is broad enough, I would say. Then we can reselect the center anchor, and then we can start rotating the hue, okay? Until we get to a green that, of course, I wouldn't say go to this green, okay? This is too green, definitely too green. But, you know, I remember even something like this, okay? It was quite a green that we used for this. This was something like this, okay? Then once you have the color, of course, and you have this node done, is as an easy fix, you know, you send this to a client and the client says, okay, maybe, you know, make it a bit more green, a bit more yellow, you just go in here, tweak this value, piece of cake. So that's the basics. I mean, this, you could send it to the client, you would be good to go, okay? Nothing more needed here. The extracurricular here would be not in the adjustment, again, this looks fine to me, but in the vignette and pop, okay? In the vignette and pop, you can definitely change the perspective and the point of view of the image. And Alessandro, you as a photographer, I think you know this better than anyone else. So what I would do here is actually go in here in this vignette and create a mask, a circular mask again. I'll point it onto the hand of a subject. And one thing that I learned throughout the years is that if you tilt your vignette, no matter how you tilt it, but if you tilt it, usually it gives a more realistic sense to it, okay? It's not that obvious that it's just a vignette that you're pushing there, okay? So, you know, something like this, and make it incredibly soft, okay? And when I say incredibly soft, I mean incredibly soft. Something like this. And the vignette, what you want to do actually is to invert it. So basically you're selecting just the outside, okay? Like this. And then you can go in your curves.
How do you invert it?
With this button here, okay? This is the inversion button. And this is the mask. So basically if you have multiple vignettes and if you use this, they are combining each other. So the exclusion type, I think. Basically you have to play with this and see what to enable and what not to make them combine the way you want. It's a bit complicated in DaVinci to actually work with the mask, but just inversion usually works fine. Before we actually do anything, remember to always track your vignette. So let's track it. Okay.
Yep.
Now it's moving accordingly to the hand. Perfect. And now let's go in our curves. And in here, super easy. I mean, it's just a vignette, so you can just take this and just drag it down, okay? Ever so slightly. One thing you want to keep an eye on is that with the waveform, you don't want to crash too much in here. You want to keep details in here, okay? So if you were to do something like this, okay, you still have details, but now you're losing all the details on top here. This is too crashed, okay? And also you want to avoid any halo, okay? You don't want this to be too obvious that it's a vignette, okay? You want this to be still realistic. So say in this case, something
I don't know why my vignette is really
harsh.
Gray first, and second, if I invert it, it become like
because you're with
gray
this
in the center. Yeah.
Because you have to delete the highlight. You have to exit the highlight mode.
Damn it!
Always remember to exit the highlight mode. But yeah, let's do before and after to make sure that this doesn't look too obvious. It is possibly a bit obvious here. We'll have to look at it in motion. We have somewhat of an halo creating here, but fortunately, the way I created this vignette, basically, you see, it's touching just the light part of the hand, it's not touching dark part. So where we are getting shadows is actually dark area. So possibly take it back a bit, okay? Possibly a bit too harsh, something like this. Yeah, there. Okay. And now what we're going to do is also add some pop. The way you add some pop is you actually add some contrast in the center of the vignette. So you get to the outside node, that's why we created the outside node here. With this, the selection basically is the inverted of our vignette, so just the hand. And here what you can do, and this is a super thing that DaVinci has, you click on these 3 dots on the curves and you choose to enable splines. With the splines enabled, what you can do is to actually click on the anchor here and you get this nice spline, and you can just do a very gentle S-curve, okay? You don't want to overdo it too much, of course, for otherwise you're losing details. But even something like this, okay? You see how this gets more popped out of the image, okay? It's sliced, it's not disturbing. Also, since this is a highlighted part, it's cool that we have, a highlight that is looking quite wide, it's not that muddy. And so if we do before and after with both the vignette and the pop, let's go full screen. You see how we are changing focus, we are focusing on here. Before we had this quite bright part that was disturbing, even this here was disturbing. But now, we are focusing on the hand.
Cool.
Oh fuck, folks. Okay, and that's done, okay? Once you have this, you're literally good to go. The only thing is, of course, to do the same thing on the other clips. Theoretically, you would do this by hand. In reality, most of the time, you will just click here and just copy paste the grade and see how it looks. And basically then you go into this nice mode here that is called neighbor clips. And you look at them, and if they look good together, you're good to go, okay? You might want to, this fortunately was shot incredibly well, I would say. The DP behind this was a nice DP, so the balance and the color, etc. is always more or less the same. One thing that you can notice straight away, for example, that the skin tone here might be a bit too magenta, so you might want to retouch this, for example, in this case. And overall, there's a bit too magenta also in here, okay? There's a bit too magenta. So I would say just in the highlights in this one, and that's why we have this adjustment node. Let's go and let's look at the game here. Let's take out some magenta, okay? Also slightly. Something like this, okay?
Man, you're a monster.
Just a touch, okay? It's a small thing, okay? But it still makes a difference. You can see it here and here, okay? That's the subtle things that you can do to actually set yourself apart from the rest of the colorists. If you keep an eye on this, again, even if we go back, okay, if we go back to this here, okay, and if we delete all of these, okay, if we delete, not the sharpening, well, not delete the sharpening, but if we delete this, if we delete even this screen and this white, this already looks nice, okay, for a commercial. You can send this, and if it's a low-end commercial in terms of the budget is very low, they give you very few time to do it, might consider sending this out. But chances are, if you send this out, they are not gonna call you back. They will say, okay, it's fine for what we need to do, but they're not gonna call you back for this is not a thing that makes you say, oh wow, this is nicely graded thing. But if you then do just a couple of extracurricular stuff like this, then you have something. Let me demonstrate for you. Let's just create a new version, okay? Super quick. And let's deactivate this node here. Let's activate this and this and this too, okay? So this is the before, this is the after, okay? This is the change that we are having. This is what sets you apart. This is what makes you profitable and professional. You see how this skin is not looking right. You see how this is not perfectly grey. This is fine, but this looks great. This is what you want. This is what you want to give to your client. With that out of the way, we are into the 30-minute mark. As always, we were not able to stay in the 10 minutes. Great job.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely no.
But I would say just a couple of minutes of Q&A if you have any questions, Alessandro. I think that might be valuable for audience. otherwise, I think we can cut it. And of course, you can ask in the comments also if you have any questions.
Yeah, the main question is about the colors because, of course, and for example, I was trying to compensate the magenta in the hands in the second clip, the one with the little seed. And for example, I noticed that when I drag the little circle in the gain, in their gain circle, it makes incredible changes. There is a way to drag the circle slowly. For example, in Lightroom, I can drag it with the shift, and it goes very soft.
Okay.
Like a little percentage.
So I know that for all these knobs, if you press Control, it slows down what you do, and it should be the same thing for here. But unfortunately, since I have the console and I use the console all the time, I'm not sure. Let me try. Let me just do a new version. Okay. Control Y. Let me reset this node and let's do it. Okay. Of course, having a console will always be better. Okay, will always give you an advantage. So if I do control, with the control, it's definitely going a bit slower. It's still doing major changes compared to what you can do with the trackball, but it's still something. Okay, it's definitely still something.
Okay.
Also, one thing you could do that might help.
Soft.
If your mouse has adjustable DPI, so basically the speed it moves, that definitely helps. For you can slow the DPI, and then you can of course be more precise in what you do. I would say definitely if you can afford it, if you're doing color grading for living, a tangent, even a tangent report case, 350 I think, and it's definitely worth it. Okay, it's definitely worth it. Yeah, but still major changes here. Definitely major changes.
Use your money.
Exactly. Spend your blithering money. Make the economy turn, you know. There's crisis that people need to eat. You don't. You don't need to eat. Okay?
No. I'm a cyborg.
Exactly. But yeah, so guys, I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was all.
No, sorry if I interrupt you, but he's an amazing teacher. So go on Fiverr if you don't know anything about DaVinci. He has what's it, like a gig? Is a gig?
Yeah, basically that's called a gig. Basically, an offer.
He teaches a lot of things. So this video is sponsored by him, basically.
Sponsored by not Fiverr nor anyone else, by me.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
So support him if you want to learn more.
Thank you.
You will be amazed about your improvement. Seriously.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. But if you want, I both do lessons, and also, you know, if you want just to work with me in terms of color grading and stuff, check it. Alessandro too has a Fiverr page. He does photography, so photo touching, and also he does renders. He's an architect, so he still does it. He's amazing at what he does. Check him out. Links in the description for both me and Alessandra. Also, our Instagrams are there. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, click the notification bell, and subscribe if you want to stay updated with what we do. And until next time, take care, be safe, and Mamma Mia!